The night was on fire. Tracer rounds sliced through the air like angry comets, the jungle below flashing with bursts of orange light. The helicopter pitched hard left as the pilot fought to keep it steady. Alarms screaming through the cabin. Every man aboard clung to his harness, except one. Sergeant Dana Reeve was standing at the open door. Wind howled around her, whipping her hair across her scarred face. Her eyes were locked on the inferno below, enemy fire tearing through the valley, a dozen soldiers pinned behind a burning convoy. It was chaos, but beneath it all, proxy servers bouncing traffic through dozens of countries, and time stamps deliberately, "We can't land." The pilot yelled, "That's suicide down there." She looked over her shoulder. "Then I'll jump." "Negative. You jump, you die." "Then I die standing for something." Before anyone could stop her, she stepped into the dark and leaped. The world became a blur of wind and heat. Her chute deployed a second before she hit the tree line, snapping her backward. She crashed through the canopy, slammed into mud, and rolled hard. For a moment, the world went silent. Then the sound of gunfire dragged her back to life. Her shoulders screamed, but she moved anyway. She tore the chute off, grabbed her rifle, and started toward the fight. Smoke clawed at the sky ahead, and through it she saw flashes of muzzle fire. Her team surrounded. They were supposed to rendezvous an hour ago. Instead, the extraction convoy had been ambushed, and now a dozen of her brothers were about to die. She checked her mag, pulled the bolt, and whispered, "Not tonight." Moving through jungle at night was suicide. But she'd learned long ago that hesitation killed faster than bullets. She crawled low, every step timed to the rhythm of the gunfire. When the enemy paused to reload, she sprinted forward 30 feet at a time. The stench of diesel and burned rubber filled the air. She could see them now, her team pinned behind a flipped truck, the enemy closing in from all sides. "Holy hell!" someone muttered as she slid in beside them. "Reeve, you jumped." "Wasn't planning on waiting for an invitation," she said, reloading. Their sergeant, blood running down his temple, laughed despite himself. "You're insane." "Insane keeps us alive," she replied. She peeked over the edge of the truck. There were at least 30 hostiles, better armed, better positioned. Their radio was dead. Reinforcements weren't coming. She studied the terrain, the narrow pass, the overturned vehicles, the riverbank to the east. Then she saw it, a fuel truck half a click away, parked under a ridge. If she could get to it, she could turn the whole valley into fire. "Cover me," she said. The sergeant grabbed her arm. "That's suicide, Reeve. Then it's my turn." She broke from cover before anyone could argue. Bullets chased her through the mud. She dove behind a boulder, fired 3 quick bursts, dropped 2 men, moved again. Each breath was a battle. Lungs burning, rain slicing into her skin. The truck loomed ahead, riddled with holes but still intact. She slid under it, pulled a grenade from her belt, and jammed it into the open fuel line. She had 10 seconds. Running back felt like sprinting through lightning. The air was electric, full of death. She dove behind the wrecked Humvee just as the grenade went off. The explosion tore the valley apart. Fire rolled across the ground, swallowing men, guns, and vehicles in one roaring wave. The night sky turned orange. The shockwave hit her like a hammer, but she held her ground. When the flames settled, the jungle was silent, only the crackle of burning leaves remained. Her team stared at her through the smoke, disbelief on every face. "Reeve," the sergeant said quietly, "you just took out an entire platoon." She wiped soot from her cheek. "Next time, maybe don't get pinned down." He grinned. "You always were a terrible listener." She didn't smile back. Her hands were shaking now that it was over. Adrenaline fading, pain creeping in, but she kept it hidden. Radio's gone. One of the men said, "We can't call for evac." She looked up, tracking the faint hum of rotors above. "We don't need to." She pulled a flare from her vest, cracked it, and fired it skyward. The red light cut through the smoke like a signal to the gods. Minutes later, the evac bird circled overhead. When they landed back at base, command was waiting. She stepped off the chopper still dripping with mud, helmet under one arm. Officers surrounded her, voices rising questions, reprimands, disbelief. You jumped without authorization. You entered a hot zone alone. You blew a fuel line in enemy territory. She stood silent through it all. Finally, the commanding officer stepped forward. Why? Her voice was quiet. "Because you don't leave men behind, not while I'm breathing." The room fell silent. Weeks later, after her wounds healed, she was summoned to a closed briefing. A general stood at the head of the table, files spread across the surface. "You broke every regulation in the book," he said. She nodded. "Yes, sir." "You also saved 12 soldiers who'd already been listed as casualties." Silence hung in the air. Then he closed the folder and looked her dead in the eyes. "Next time you lead." Months passed. Her story spread through the ranks, half rumor, half legend. Some said she jumped out of a burning helicopter. Others said she walked through fire untouched. But the ones who were there knew the truth. She was human. She bled, she broke, and she still ran into the flames anyway. Because that's what special forces are made of, not strength, not glory, but the courage to leap when everyone else hesitates. And somewhere deep in the jungle, long after the fires went cold, a group of rescued soldiers built a small marker out of stone. No names, no ranks, just 4 words carved into the rock. She jumped, we lived. And that was all the world ever needed to know.